jumped the shark on that one, did we, tonight? I'm allowed to make a mistake. It's my fourth show of this 13th anniversary of Fukushima nuclear meltdowns. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to one of the greatest shows on the nuclear industry in history. And we got a great poll for everybody tonight, if there's such a thing. Is the Japanese Fukushima perpetual radioactive fallout the cause of a worldwide extinction level event? And if you're not familiar with this, then you need to go back after the show, or now, and watch my show from Thursday of last week on marine species die-off. This is one of many, many in a series. And we have done the research expeditions to quantify such a show. We are going to be taking calls tonight at 709-589-4406. 709. This is the 13th anniversary. Give us a call. Tell us what you think of Fukushima, or if you're pro-nuclear, absolutely feel free to call in. This is a Canadian number. And we're taking all callers tonight. We're going to talk about Fukushima and its radioactive fallout. We'll talk about the headlines from the original first few years. And we'll talk to you fine folks if you are inclined to call in. Good night, everybody. We'll also be watching the comments section for questions, hopefully. You can text me questions at 709-589-4406 or statements during this show. So just quickly going to scan the comments. Sacramento Lynn is driving. So if you get comments, you're lucky, because when you're driving it's difficult. Hi everybody, welcome to the show. So Fukushima was a nuclear meltdown. There was multiple nuclear meltdowns in 2011. The world government successfully covered it up. But the radioactive fallout now is a plague upon humanity and the 8 million species. We have covered this as much as we possibly can in order to keep the conversation alive, and hope that somebody out there will come up with solutions, and that this industry needs to be eradicated before they eradicate you. They are well under the way of eradicating you and the 8 million species. You should return in kind. Just because they wear $5,000 suits don't mean they are untouchable. The degenerate, monstrous, hideous, odious International Atomic Energy Agency has said there was no such thing as a safe level of man-made radiation, not bananas and potato chips and walking in sunshine and flying on airplanes type. These should never be conflated with anthropogenic man-made radiation. And one of the most current degenerates on the planet is Rafael Grossi. Truly an evil monster, truly worse than all the dictators and despots in history combined. But a genuine monster. And that they should be sentenced and convicted and should get a stake in the heart, so we can be sure he doesn't rise back up in some other itineration in the future. He's currently saying that nothing got out of these buildings. There was no releases whatsoever. Dana's a lawyer. You're a lawyer, Dana. Lawyer, Dana. We haven't heard from our local stalker from Japan in Chicago, Yoshida Mashata, in the last month. Hopefully he's getting rectal surgery or something. They also say that the International Atomic Energy Agency's radiation standards were merely an international consensus. So the International Atomic Energy Agency is not an authority. I know that might sound counterintuitive if you've never been here before, But that's their own words. They're not authority. They can't compel a country. They don't have sovereignty over any country. In fact, they're just a subsidy of a military-industrial complex known as United Nations. Studies have not found a safe level of radiation. That's why they're saying nothing got out, see? The panel said there's sufficient justification for the project as their standards are not based on what is safe, but how great the benefit. So the international agencies' recommendations are based on natural, not man-made stuff. And that is one of the most scariest statements in history. So you've been hoodwinked. Your levels in your food are not safe, obviously. So they're not doing, because there is no benefit to man-made radiation. And so everybody in the nuclear industry that had made recommendations based on International Atomic Energy Agency's criteria should get life in jail for crimes against humanity and genocide. Japan's radioactive children will be fine, said monsters. Hi, everybody. Richard, Colette, Albert, Sacramento, Dana Nasana. Hi, Dana. Dana's your moderator. And a good friend. Just a quick shout out. Rock. I don't know, a lot of people. So we're going to try to keep an eye out for the comments section. You can call into the live show at 709-589-4406. All lines are open. Japan's radioactive children will be fine with 35 millisieverts. These are insane doses. And you don't measure the doses to ingestion, inhalation, consumption by describing it as millisieverts. It's 35,000 microsieverts, and you want to multiply it by about 750 to get a baseline of what the numbers are in physical atoms, and each atom is attacked relentlessly. And your body attacks with white blood cells. So if you got, I'll do the numbers for you very quick, maybe. So 30, I'll bring it up on the big screen for everybody. Which is that screen. So 35 microsieverts is 35,000 microsieverts. You multiply that by 750. So 26 million cuts in your body. Think of radiation just because, but it's way worse than cuts, right? But think of 26,250,000 cuts inside your body, microscopic cuts, and your body has to repair every one of them. But the problem is that's every second your body is pulsing with anthropogenic radiation that's now infested parasitically into your body. So your body has to attack each one of those atoms for the rest of your life with white blood cells. But it also has to repair the damage from the pulses almost at the speed of light from each of these atoms. And so you can imagine you're going to multiply that by, say, 100, just say by 100,000. Just to try to give you some context. It's worse than that, of how many cells and chromosomes and DNA. What did I do wrong? So you got 75. I done something wrong. Oh, I multiplied 750. It don't matter. My apologies. Let's do this again one more time. So you got 35,000 microsieverts. Each microsiever is 750 atoms. And so you're going to multiply that by, and then now multiply that number by 100,000. And this is how much your body has to repair every second. And so you got 2,600,000 damaged cells, chromosomes, and DNA every second. Your body has to repair all of that every second for the rest of your life. Plus, it has to attack the 26 million atoms that are inside your body and try to build a sarcophagus around them to protect you, because they're foreign entities. Your body treats them as a foreign invader because it doesn't recognize it. It doesn't have an autoimmune trigger to defend against it naturally, like expel it from your body maybe. So if you got a cut on your finger, it'll heal the cut 6-7 days later, right? And now your white blood cell counts will go down, your red blood cell counts will come back up. And for every white blood cell you create, you displace a red blood cell. So now you have a lot less oxygen, a lot less nutrition, because your white blood cell or red blood cells carry nutrition, right? And oxygen. So if you're an insect or a bird or a mammal or an animal or one of the species on the planet, 8 million species, you can see where this becomes problematic. I'm supposed to be in there, right? We'll get there. So the number is 709-589-4406. 709-589-4406. Hi, Stephen Young. I'm just recognizing everybody that found their way here. I know it's been a long day for everybody. Tokyo newspaper, 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested have diabetes. So imagine if 6 in 10 children in Canada had diabetes all of a sudden in the first year of Fukushima. Or imagine if 6 to 10 Americans children have diabetes in, say, 2012. And it could easily be you, because us, Canada and the United States, have a lot of reactors. Children with over 11 atoms a kilogram of cesium start to see heart problems. So Japan is flooded, and I mean flooded the planet with radioactive food from the nuclear wasteland. And 14 prefectures continue to grow food and ship it worldwide, despite 55 countries banning it. That's right, James Lucid with a great comment. 13 years of ongoing core meltdowns. And 13 years of continuously shipping food out of the nuclear wastelands. The whole story is insane. Like, just this picture, which is from your media, Japan's media, shows the farmer harvesting food right alongside of 1-ton bags of radiation. It's mind-boggling and it's heartbreaking. But it's important that if we don't have a conversation about it, then we're forever going to regret it. At least we tried, and we definitely changed the industry. I know that for a fact. Many countries have now walked away from, or ran away from nuclear. The nuclear industry is now going backwards. And last year, in 2023, there was 507 gigawatts of renewables came online, and 1.7 gigawatts of nuclear went offline. So nuclear went backwards. But that's equal in renewable energy, was 507 gigawatts, is equal to 725 large reactors coming online in 12 months. You can't stop that. But the industry now is looting the system as much as it can before it runs out of space. 50 becquerels a kilogram in adults lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. So 50 atoms. Think about 200 atoms on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. So 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. So extract 50 of those atoms from the 200 million atoms on the head of a needle that you can't see. Take 50 of that and put it in somebody's diet. It's not perceivable. Even the 200 million atoms is not perceivable. Your body can't perceive it as a smell or a taste or a feel or a touch or anything like that. But the body recognizes it as soon as it enters your body. It can sequester in your muscles, your organs, and your bones, becomes organically bound. And your body attacks it now for the rest of your life with white blood cells. And these are catastrophic results. And if you got questions, let them rip. That's right. Thank you, Albert. You can call in also or text me at 709-589-4406. Don't be shy. Nobody else is around here. We're surprised. Normally the nuclear industry assaults me on this day. But this year they just decided to censor me as if I didn't exist. So tonight we're going to cover in the background while we're waiting for anybody who wants to call in. We'd like to get some pro-nuclear call in and let me hear them strut their stuff. 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organ. This is catastrophic because it's such a tiny amount, so it's impossible to perceive it. And that they're shipping 14 billion pounds of this, 14 billion pounds of food a year. Other countries, what they were doing, they were shipping it to other countries, relabeling it, or even mixing it with other product from their country and then shipping it off to third, fourth, and fifth different countries. Cancer illnesses from Fukushima. There's heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. I'm just going to scan the comment section quickly, looking for any questions that might have been directed my way. And nobody can say I don't try. Let's put it that way. And I can look myself in the mirror tomorrow morning and say I gave it a good try. And I can hate the nuclear industry just a whole lot more tomorrow. Cancer or illness from Fukushima radiation 5 to 10 years, and this is a disaster affecting all residents of Japan. But it wasn't 5 to 10 years at all, was it? So thyroid tumors for children are at 2 centimeters. Typically it was 1 in a million, 2 per million. Now it's 13,646. This is 2012, I might add, out of 38,000. So when you scale it up, it's 358,000 out of a million, when it used to be 1 in a million. So the adult's thyroid gland is 3 centimeters by 5 centimeters. So children's thyroids are much smaller. So 2 centimeter on a child's thyroid is that's a tumor. That's a massive tumor. Tumors of 2 centimeters or less. The thyroid gland is 5 centimeters by 3 centimeters total, but that's for an adult. And there's claimed that cancer increases after 10 sievert radiation dose, so Japan is okay. Again, you're talking about ingestion. You're not talking about a beam from an X-ray or something like this where it's switched on and switched off in a few seconds. You're talking about it's in your body, it's pulsing energy almost at the speed of light every second. So Helen Caldecott is a pediatrician from Australia, and she's wrote 14 anti-nuclear books. She was interviewed on the Surge Report, and I put these pictures, one picture here and the picture over there. This is the real reactor, and that's the fake one. I'm going to step back and play that clip, and then I'm going to play a clip of Arnie Gunnarsson. I got his video put in the fuel pool of Reactor 4 at Fukushima. And I'll be right back. We're going to play these clips. Now, Helen is going to be asked, does the reactor look like this? Which, of course, it does. Or does it look like that? And Helen is not stupid. She wrote 14 anti-nuclear books. She's done this interview many times, and finally somebody asked her the question, but they didn't push her enough. And she should be on trial for crimes against humanity, same as Arnie Gunnarsson. Truly, 2 of the worst humans you're going to come across. Let's play those clips.
Let me ask you this. You've said that if the spent fuel pool in number 4 collapses, that you would evacuate your family from Boston. Do you think we would ever know the truth of what's going on there? And the reason I ask is because we've seen coverage in the national news media here in the United States from ABC News and others that take video cameras in, saying that they're being given exclusive access to number 4 in the removal of the fuel rods, which is said to have begun. And what we see in the video being shared here in America is a pristine interior building. It doesn't look like a building in which the top blew off in a hydrogen explosion.
The Japanese are very tidy people, and they have, by robot control and by human beings, removed the debris from the top of Building 4, and it does look pristine.
Yeah, but it can't. It doesn't work that way. These are nuclear meltdowns. The fuel pools were at the very top of the building. Okay, so this is Arnie Gunnarsson. And Arnie got a very interesting lie to tell you. Let's play that.
The Unit 4 was damaged twice. It was damaged by all of the earthquakes that occurred, and it was also damaged by a series of explosions over the first week or two of the accident. So the building is structurally weakened. Now, Tokyo Electric's acknowledged that. They went in May and June of last year. This is more than a year ago, and put an enormous number of extra structural supports directly under the fuel pool to keep the bottom of the pool from breaking through.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't put structures under a fuel pool. The fuel pool's at the top of the building. There is no top to the building. So these are the two people that, if you look independently, you'll find constantly. You won't find me, but you'll find that constantly. I'm going to direct your attention to the censorship tonight is particularly hideous. We have 12 likes and 24 votes, and this is a discrepancy you rarely see. Normally there's about a 3 or 4 extra votes compared to the likes, but not a dozen, ever. 22 concurrent viewers on a show that has been running for over a decade straight. All totally normal. So Arnie Gunnarsson and Helen Caldicott, for Arnie to suggest that they're gone into a nuclear meltdown and putting structures under a fuel pool is unbelievable. Because he made the racks for the fuel assemblies in the fuel pool. So if he doesn't know, who the freak does know? The United States government funded study, which is unusual to get any truth out of those creatures. The effect of this radiation exposure is expected to be beneficial. So this was a Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, Dr. Ray McGillmedy, I would imagine. This is a model of the radioactive detonation, and that's a model of the radioactive fallout. I mean, for anybody to suggest that it's going to be beneficial from radioactive fallout is probably one of the cruelest statements you could actually make. Yeah, Loveless Respiratory, which is a military or a Navy, a United States military Navy research institute. They killed beagle dogs and beagle puppies exclusively. They kill other animals, but when it comes to dogs, beagle dogs and beagle puppies are their preferred victim. The news media misinformation related to the emergency triggered enormous social fear worldwide of the radioactivity that is being released. For downwind populations, hormetic effects activated natural protective processes are much more likely than the lecturous effects. I do believe that is a hideous statement suggesting that ingesting anthropogenic man-made radiation from an institution that studies them. So Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. Let me show you some of the dog studies that they've done there while we're waiting for the callers to call in. I'm sure they're out there. They're probably rushing home to make the phone calls to the live show here as we speak. We'll sit here patiently and wait for them. I'm surprised the pro-nuclear hasn't called in. They're smart not to. But I'm surprised that, because they're usually pretty stupid, Great education, but incapable of socializing. So let's look up some of their dog studies from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. They love puppies and doggies so much. Let me show you their studies. Oh, just as luck would have it. Just pure luck that I found it right away. Toxicity of the inhaled plutonium dioxide in beagle dogs and beagle puppies. So 144 beagle dogs. Death from radiation occurred 1.5 to 5.4 years after exposure in all the dogs. And tumors of the lungs, the skeleton, and the liver occurred beginning about... I do believe we got our first caller. We got James Lucid calling in. Hi, James.
Well, I wanted to call in. I want the Sheeta Machada to call in.
Yeah.
But he's not calling in, apparently. I'm kind of worried about it.
Yeah, I was expecting your audio to be really loud, and I'm going to move you over to the microphone, I guess. I got no idea what I got done wrong there tonight, James. My apologies. Something wrong.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I was just saying you were supposed to be on the external microphone. It didn't show up.
Oh, okay, yeah. But I guess, can you hear me all right now?
I can, yeah. I hope everybody...
Okay, good.
We're back to the old way. Let's put it that way. It's all good.
I'm just confused because I'm wondering, because there's a lot of problems the nuclear industry's having, and maybe they're just not paying Calm Down Charlie. Like, listen, it's not effective.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I thought he was going to get Stinkfoot after me, Thunderfoot, to beat me up.
Yeah, that never happened. Of course. I mean, that was such a stupid threat. I mean, it was so dumb anyway. It was like, the guy talked about Elon Musk. What are you talking about? Like, you got ripped off. If you took your money, he's not going to talk about Fukushima. Like, he's probably mad at Thunderfoot. That's probably what's going on right now.
Well,
Who knows?
Yeah, no. Here it is, the 13th anniversary. And we got no challenges. We got none of the industry. Just doesn't make any sense. We got no.
Think about it. I mean, 13 years now. 13 years, and they're still got the narrative under their belt, but they got to be tired by now. I mean, really, seriously. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, think about like, because here we're coming up with that eclipse, right? This whole eclipse is coming up on April 8th.
Yeah, right.
And there's all this like interest in the scientific whatever community that's left. I mean, they're all brain dead by now, don't realize what's going on. But they're like, hey, this is a great opportunity to watch the behavior of the wildlife during the eclipse. Because, this is not going to happen in another 55 years, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, where the hell is it? I mean, this is going to come up right above St. John's. I don't know if it's possible, if you can get out there where those gulls were, when they're on the...
yeah, I can, so I bet you. I bet you I can, yeah. If there's any gulls left, 'cause they were eating the babies the last time I looked.
There's probably just a few left. And, it'd be a great scene. It's like you're capturing a gull. It's eating its young that just knocked out of the nest and just fell to its death. And at that time, the eclipse is going to the full, 100%. And the gull lifts up its head and looks around like, what have I just done?
How come all the birds and animals don't go blind when we have an eclipse? It was a question I always wondered about. Because they don't have special glasses, I'm pretty sure. I never checked now, but I don't think they have special glasses.
Oh, sure, the sun's going to be completely out, 100% where you're going to be. I think right north of St. John's, the path.
Yeah, I'm
100% is
I'm 12
right
miles. I'm about 12 miles away from them. St. John's from the tip, right? By the the crow, if we can find one.
If there are any animals around, theoretically they should go ape shit because it's like daytime, then it's night. Like there's no transition.
Yeah, I'm going to be. I didn't realize that. I did notice the story about a week ago, so I'm a little bit behind. But that is insane. If I can get out there, I'll be out there. You can be sure of it. And
well, it would be interesting because who else is going to be out? I mean, it's just all that's going to follow after this event. We're just going to see. It's what I predict is just going to be this collage of interesting stories where people they'll black out of their mind that there's any problem with nature because here they are getting spoon-fed these articles about, oh yeah, they had a great opportunity by noticing how the hummingbirds took different turns in parenting while the eclipse took place.
wow.
It's just like to be brain dead, stupid shit like that. But the reality is, it's been 13 years of ongoing core meltdowns in the Pacific.
Yeah.
The snow crab are gone.
Yeah, in Alaska. And how many was it? Like 8 billion or something they said was gone?
Billion. I mean, how can they just cover that up with this? You saw the story. They're like, maybe the aliens took them. After all, the Pentagon said they're real, so it could happen, right? Like, why would the aliens want it? But it's just the fact that they have been so hardcore with keeping you down, keeping you censored off YouTube all throughout this time, and they've tried harder than others. They went full rogue and just stripped out your material while you're searching for spiders. I remember that.
Yeah, 1,600.
I remember how crazy it was.
1,600 presentations. Yeah.
But there was a video you did. You were out in the middle of nowhere, and there wasn't anything to be heard.
That's right. Yeah.
There was no chirping, nothing.
During that trip, that's right.
It was like the perfect paradise where you find wildlife.
I was a couple of hundred miles out into the woods, so there was no local pollution or anything like that to be put into the equation. We were out in nature in the middle of nowhere, looking for spiders and other species. But it was stunning how quiet it was at. And I every time I'd done those research trips, I would put food outdoors, and every day you would check it multiple times for insects, or you would hope some random animal would come by and grab it and eat it, right? That's typical. But it was always there, and it never, out in British Columbia, James, when I go out in the ocean, was getting ready to go out in the ocean, I was like 2 weeks away from going on the ocean. And I took a bunch of chicken legs and put them out in my garden. Went and picked up on purpose just to do this experiment. And they were still perfectly the same. There was no bacteria. They didn't break down. There was no species. There was no insects. There was nothing there to bother the chicken legs after 2 weeks. And I've never seen or heard tell of anything like that in my life. The crazy.
Yeah. Well, I guess that, if you could see the gamma shine just raining down from the atmosphere.
Wow.
It has to be so it has to be concentrated more up in the north. Because what you filmed in that one episode in that region where it was just so quiet, it just made me think like there's no way life can exist. You can look
there was
at
nothing.
This, like it's a picture.
There was nothing.
But if you weren't standing there witnessing like how you're hearing nothing at all, then nothing could live there.
And, yeah.
Nature kind of relies on itself, right?
Right.
Like you can't.
There was this. I remember I'd done this experiment on this section where all these flowers were too. There must have been 30,000 flowers alongside the road, and I slowly, methodically went and tried to stare at all the flowers, looking for a bee or a wasp or some kind of pollinator or some kind of life. And I'd done the whole thing, and I didn't find a single bee or wasp. And I remember my mind was blown by it. It was a beautiful summer's day. It was early summer. It was probably 85, 90 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. And that really like drove the point home for me. And I remember that night just being like total silence all night long. No crickets, no frogs, no nothing in the background. And you know, it was shortly after that they took my site down. Right, I was out in the middle of the woods.
Right, then they take the site down. And they're trying to crush your spirit, you know. They're trying to do everything they can. They've done everything they can to crush your spirit.
Good luck on that one.
Yeah, it doesn't. So they're just like, God, you know, how much money are we going to throw at this problem? You know, that's what they're.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why I just needed to call in.
I'm glad you did. Thank you. At least you called in, James. Good stuff, my friend. Great stuff, actually.
Definitely. All right, man. I'll be watching. All right.
Okay. Love you too, man. Thanks for calling, James. Big time, eh? Good stuff. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad at least we got a call. And a great call at that. Somebody that actually knows their shit, right? Okay, let's go back to loveless respiratory research. And you got to think about all the points James just made if you're new to this topic, if you're new to these videos. And if you watch a single one of these videos from beginning to end with an open mind, I got you. Because I'm going to give you so much information, denial is no longer an option. And if you're a budding nuclear student, then you're going to quit quite soon. Okay, so let's go back to the die-offs. Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. I got to do this another way to make it work for me, though, because bear with me. So you too can call in at 709-589-4406. I'm in Canada. Toxicity of inhaled plutonium dioxide in beagle dogs. This was a study by Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, who said that there was no adverse side effects and effects from multiple nuclear meltdowns would be beneficial. So this is Loveless Research Institute in New Mexico. Dr. Raymond Gilmedy is one of their head monsters. So they took 144 beagle dogs and they made them inhale a single inhalation of plutonium-238. And they all died, and all of them died with basically 3 tumors. And the tumors, which were the tumors of the lungs, the skeleton / the bone, but that's a proper word is the skeleton, and the liver occurred at about 3 years after the exposure. And liver tumors were found in 20 dogs, were the cause of death in only 2 dogs. Lung tumors were in 46 dogs, were the second most common cause of death, but bone tumors were found in 93 dogs and were the second most common cause of death. They also suggested that these findings in dogs suggested that similar dose-related biological effects could be expected in humans accidentally exposed to plutonium-238. But what's really interesting is that it was discovered that human kidneys are at least 50 times less efficient than animal kidneys at removing plutonium. So humans were 50 times more vulnerable than a dog is. But another interesting facet of this story was that the curium isotopes are the major byproduct in irradiated nuclear fuel. Curium isotopes, you need lead shielding 10 times thicker than you do for plutonium. And curium, just what we call a nuclear meltdown of curium, this is the major byproduct. So it's the biggest byproduct of isotopes. Now, so the human kidneys are 50 times less efficient than the dog's kidneys, and the dogs died in all the studies. Not 10% or 20% or 30%, but 100% of the dogs died. And curium isotopes, and a human is 50 times less efficient than a dog at removing the plutonium. And that is very concerning. And so Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, New Mexico, are the epitome of evil, aren't they? Isn't that the very definition of evil, what they've done? Child's risk of cancer from radiation is 10 to 100 times higher than an adult who had the same exposures. It's actually thousands of times worse because the child, unlike the adult, is developing. And so their side effects are going to be thousands of times worse because they're going to be producing massive radioactive hormones and they're developing, and they're going to need massive stem cells. and so the skeleton is producing the stem cells, then therefore they're going to be significantly quicker and more severely impacted. 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested have diabetes. And 45% of children in Fukushima had thyroid exposures to radiation up to 50,000 microsieverts per year. This is the equivalent for a 1-year-old child. These are insane numbers. These are insane numbers. Now remember, that's 2011, folks. And that in 2012, there was 865,000 excess cancers, new cancers. And let's go back to that story. Yeah, so cancers or illnesses from Fukushima expected in 5 to 10 years. But in 2012, what we seen was catastrophic. And remember, the severe poisoning of the whole population worldwide. Low doses of radiation causes heart diseases and strokes, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, and because typically they just want to acknowledge cancer, right? Hi, Port Angeles. I'm not sure if you're saying hi to Dana or Dana. Nasana. Gabriel Tree Wolf, Chandra Wolf Churchill, Peaceware. Just acknowledging everybody as I notice them. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Let's double check the poll. So the poll is still, the likes are very low compared to the poll. Is the Japanese Fukushima perpetual or radioactive fallout? Because the reactors are still melting down, and it was such a big pulse event, the cause of a worldwide extinction level event. And that's a big Roger Dodger. The lowest levels of radiation are harmful to life, says the scientist from the University of South Carolina, Stephen Powell. We have to rethink. Oh, we got Stephen Young calling in. Fantastic. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Dana.
Thank you for calling in, my friend. Thank you for calling in.
I think last time I called you, I said I was supposed to start those infusion treatments.
Yes.
Next Monday, I get the first one.
Woohoo! That's fantastic. I was wondering about that just yesterday. Go ahead, Stephen. I'm sorry.
3 days in a row, 4.5 hours.
Wow. That's crazy.
They're pumping me full of a drug called Privigen.
That's with a T, right?
No, it's with the P.
Okay, because I'm not hearing you very good on my side, but just showing up on the microphone.
So anyway, I was watching a documentary the other night on bird migration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. Then I looked when it was made. It was made in 2001. I look at everything now, like, was that before Fukushima or after Fukushima?
That's how I look at it. And obviously you've been around long enough to do the same thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Stephen. Go ahead.
You were talking earlier about going out and not seeing any bees or anything.
Right.
I was talking to my stepbrother who lives back in Iowa, who's the same age as me, 71. And he was telling me that he gets like honey and maple syrup and eggs from one of the farmers by where he lives.
Okay.
The guy was saying that, you know, he raises bees, and he was saying that he was having a hard time keeping them alive.
Wow. Because of the radioactive pollen, folks. Yeah, that's insane.
And then I brought up, I go, you remember when we were kids and like going down the highway in Iowa to my grandparents' house?
Just splatter.
And I said, remember how we used to stop every 30 minutes and clean the windshield off from all the bugs?
Yep.
Not anymore.
Now you don't clean the windshield ever. Within a couple of years, we noticed the decline of the insects of Fukushima. Go ahead, Stephen. By the way, I'm super excited that you're going to be getting these effusions next week. That's fantastic news. I really hope it works.
I'm praying that they help.
Yeah, me too. That's incredible.
Lately, I'm over 3 years of being in a wheelchair. I'm ready to get out of the wheelchair.
And how long were you in the hospital before you got out of the hospital?
Initially, I think I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and then I went to like a place where supposedly they were doing therapy.
Yeah.
But
because it started off and it just went bang on you, right? I remember it clearly.
yeah, I literally went to bed one night and was fine, and woke up in the morning and fell on the floor twice going out to the kitchen.
It's amazing.
How long were you in the hospital? And it, you know, it affected me from like my knees down to my feet and from my elbows down to my hands. So makes it hard, well, impossible to walk.
Yeah, I remember.
And hard to do anything with your hands.
I remember, like even a year ago, it was still really hard for you just to type a small comment, for instance, right? It was really
I
difficult.
think I was like, it was January when I initially got this, like the second week of January, and I remember I didn't go home till like March.
So you're not seeing any insects or any birds in Las Vegas.
Another thing my stepbrother mentioned when I was talking to him last was like, you know, migrant birds that normally go through Iowa that are
Yeah.
pretty regular. He was saying like one of the main ones was robins. And he said that he doesn't hardly see them anymore. He said, well, and there's no insects.
Yeah, farmer can't survive without the insects. Certain types, right? They need the pollinators. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's what bees do. They pollinate all the crops. And I go, when they go, we go too.
yeah, and we're on our way by the looks of it, unfortunately. I'm very excited about you getting some funny, a different diagnosis and treatment coming up.
I never do it 3 days in a row, then they don't do it again for a month. So
It's going to be a slow go, but hopefully after the first month you start to see you start to get some relief, right? That'd be amazing.
I looked up online what this Prevagen supposedly does, and supposedly repairs the nylon sheet, the nylon cover of your nerves.
Wow. Holy smokes, man. My goodness. I wonder how that...
Privign. Prevagen.
Okay. I'm sure some people out there will be glad you done that. That's good.
So,
I'm looking forward to finding
I'm
out.
going to get excited because, you know, I thought I was going to have to live with this for the rest of my life. So now there's at least some hope.
I mean, you know, like, it's not unusual to get the wrong diagnosis either, right? So to get another diagnosis that...
Well, I was initially diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and a neurologist I went and saw like about a month ago said if you had Guillain-Barré syndrome, you would have got better in 6 months to a year.
My goodness.
I've been dealing with this for like 3 years. I go, well, the other neurologist didn't say anything about that.
That's heartbreaking. Well, like, the main thing is you got some treatment. Sorry?
I said there's hope now.
Yes. No, I mean, like, you've been around a long time, and I would really, truly like to see you get some kind of relief and some resemblance of your life back that you had, because you used to go out and walk your 2 dogs all the time, right? Every single day. Well, twice a day you would go out and walk your dogs, and you go for long walks, and then all of a sudden you're in a wheelchair right out of the blue.
This happened, they average like walking on 5 miles a day.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then you can't, and then no walking at all. It's insane, see? Okay, Stephen.
With the help of the walker. Anyway, I love you all.
Love you too, Stephen. Thank you for calling in, my friend.
March 11, 2011.
Hugs for you, lovely. Thank you, my friend.
Okay.
Okay, Stephen. That's Stephen Young, folks, in the comment section. Have a nice night, Stephen. That's Stephen. You know Stephen in the comment section if you've been around at all. And Stephen has supported, again, this show for so many years. I've lost track. We're very grateful that he called in with some updates on top of that, because we know Stephen for a long time. I've talked to Stephen many, many, many times. And to see him go downhill that way, but he never lost hope, eh? He never gave up. And it's been a horrible struggle, terrifying struggle. And just the thought of a different diagnosis and a treatment is pretty special. So that's amazing. We got 2 phone calls tonight. Holy smokes, my brain is going to explode. I'm not used to all this attention. Woo, Dana. If we can get some pro-nuclear call in, we have a few laughs here tonight. But seeing as the pro-nuclear industry won't call in, well, we might have to go about this a different way, I suppose. What can we do to... let's play one of our stalkers, Calm Down Charlie. You can find his T-shirts, the best-selling T-shirts I've ever had. It was around 270 T-shirts sold now. Quickly approaching 300. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a couple of clips. And this is the guy they're supposed to set after me. Stinkfoot to your left. And this is the current version of him. And that's his picture, not mine. So I'm going to play a couple of videos where he called in. They're not very long videos. They're definitely entertaining, though. Where he called in what we know as Calm Down Charlie. And he's an arrogant piece of shit, I must say. But just because it's the anniversary and he weaseled his way somewhere else, we're going to give him his props. He stalked me for over 10 years, and it wasn't unusual for him to call in 10 times a show. So here, meet Calm Down Charlie, everybody. This is from last year, and the next clip is from this year. Ideally, the theory was I could shoot the video. I think that's Calm Down Charlie. Should we give it a try? Hello.
Hello, Mr. Dana.
Who's this?
Tokyo Bureau. How are you?
Is this the Tokyo Bureau Chicago division?
Indeed, yes. Mr. Dana,
how do you like my
how do you
like my T-shirt I got for you? Do you like my T-shirt?
Friend of Tokyo Bureau.
Do you like that?
Tell you about friend of Tokyo Bureau.
You fuck Tokyo Bureau. Fuck you too, you piece of shit. You shut your pie hole.
He know a lot more than you.
Who do?
You're stupid, man. He a friend of Tokyo Bureau, and he is instrumental in helping us launch Operation Long Jump.
How do you spell that?
Operation Long Jump.
How do you spell
Mr.
it?
Dana.
How do you spell it?
Oh.
How do you spell it?
Huh?
How do you spell that? Long jab.
Huh?
Long
What
jab?
you say?
You say long jab?
Long Jump.
Long jab.
No. Operation Long Jump. Get it right, Mr. Dana.
Long jab?
Long Jump.
Did you order
silly
one of my
man.
T-shirts I made for you? You probably got the
Dana,
pink. You probably got the pink one, right?
Stop avoiding the situation.
What do you want, scumbag?
With Tokyo Bureau advisor and friend,
Yeah.
Mr. Thunderfoot, you're gonna be finished. You're gonna be finished, Mr. Dana.
Yeah, I'm all shook up, eh? I'm so scared of you.
You should be. Oh, I would love to be in your shoes. Oh, you make me sick.
Hey, what are you going to be when you grow up?
Okay, sit tight, Mr. Dana.
What are you going to be when you grows up?
Sit tight. We'll be with you soon.
I heard.
See you later, Mr. Dana.
What are you going to be when you grow up? I heard you're going to be a big prick just like me. Which means you haven't got far to go, actually, do you? So there's an interesting threat. They're going to come out and challenge me, are they? That should be fun. Okay, so that was the first part. Now here's another phone call from Operation Long Jump. Illinois is calling in. Hello, Illinois.
Hello, Mr. Dana. Hello, how are you?
What do you want, scumbag?
Operation Long Jump in full swing, and we have big announcement.
Yeah?
New science advisor and friend of Tokyo Bureau, Thunderfoot.
Oh, Stinkfoot.
He know all about you. He know all about you, Mr. Dana.
You mean Stinkfoot? I know all about Stinkfoot. We know all about
Very
Stinkfoot.
smart man.
We know
You're
all.
dummy.
I'm done, am I? Have you seen how done I am? I got 28 people on my show. Why are you worried about me?
I'm not worried about you. You should be worried about us.
Why are you threatening me?
This is no threat, Mr. Dana.
Well,
Your
that's
stupidity is coming to an end.
That's what you just done. You threatened me.
No, Mr. Dana.
What's your name?
Friendly warning.
What's your name?
Yoshida Mashada,
You're
Tokyo Bureau,
Yeah.
Chicago Division.
How do you spell your name?
How you spell your name? Huh?
I put it on the screen
Why you
every
ask
day,
this
stupid.
question?
Because people want to know.
Why you ask stupid question? Anyway, I just come here quickly to
Stupid
announce
question for a
Science
stupid name.
Advisor Thunderfoot
Stunfoot.
is a friend of Tokyo Bureau.
Stunfoot. Stinkfoot.
You're in deep trouble. Deep trouble with the Dana, so I'll leave you to worry about
No, don't go anywhere. I know if you leave here, you're going to go molest your puppies. I'd rather keep you here than molesting your puppies.
Bastard, you sick bastard scammer.
Okay, scumbag. Anything else?
Operation Long Jump is go. Welcome, Thunderfoot.
Welcome, Stinkfoot. I'll be welcome. I'll be waiting for him. We're looking forward to it. And so that's Stinkfoot. That's Stinkfoot on the right and the left. He's changed a lot. He's a nuclear scientist, and he's going to beat me up. The only problem is we've never seen him. He's never showed up. He's hid away like... this Operation Long Jump, if you look up Operation Long Jump, that was actually an assassination, right? On multiple leaders that didn't pan out the way they wanted it to, apparently. And so Operation Long Jump is in full swing, apparently. I'm so scared. We're not worried about the nuclear industry. Celebrated physicians. Fukushima has humanity on the brink of a possible worldwide nuclear holocaust. And the world as we know it has changed. Now, calm down, Charlie can still call in because, not that we miss him, it's just that it's kind of like how do you put it, wouldn't it? It's kind of like having a big wart on your arse or something. The world as we know it has changed. The effects on our health are incomprehensible. So there are people that spoke out. So this is whatever they're estimating for humans. Remember, the species are thousands of times more vulnerable. And the reason they're making these types of assertions is because the radioactive fallout is absurd. The documentation we have of it, it's truly absurd. So he's calling me. I don't know what. Does he really think he's going to chase me away? Does he really think he's going to intimidate me? Does he really think I'm going to have a sleepless night? Obviously, they haven't studied me as much as I assumed they have. There's tons of people in the nuclear industry will have a go at me just because, for free, just as a favor to the nuclear industry. So they'll come and watch my video and they can't debunk me. They can't find the stuff that they normally would hope to find to mock me or ridicule me. I'm very thoughtful about what I do say and what I do show. I make sure that I'm aware of it before I talk about it. Because what's the point, right? We haven't got time for conjectures, for opinions. We have to talk about facts only. So the question is, if nothing got out of these buildings and that they picked up 30 million one-ton bags, how's that work? So nothing got out, but they picked up 30 million one-ton bags. France says Japan's lost control. The French should leave the country. And the top cancer doctor says nuclear radiation is the most carcinogenic thing that exists. It's actually 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And it never goes away, of course. It's pulsing energy at the speed of light every second on top of it. And so they're growing food in 14 prefectures were banned by 55 countries. If that's not an emergency, what actually is? What constitutes an emergency if this is not an emergency? Harvesting food right alongside of one-ton bags of radiation is not something you could have predicted pre-Fukushima. It's not something like, hey, geez, I hope they don't have a nuclear accident because they might be evil enough to do that. Like, I would have been proud to thought about it, but there's no way you would conceive that they would do something like that because this is a picture from the media. It's really difficult to reconcile that took place and has taken place. Somebody, and I got a story, we might cover it tomorrow night or the night after, because there's a lot of stories I picked up since Thursday that I didn't intend to cover in tonight or today's shows. Today was about just putting out half-an-hour shows, which turns out to be way harder. It's way easier to do a 2-hour show. But the idea was put out something a little more bit-size for those who might be looking at this industry. And it could take months or a year for that to percolate out there. But I can guarantee you everybody in the nuclear industry in the high echelon have watched the videos because they don't have any other source on the entire planet. That is terrifying to me, by the way. How low doses of radiation can cause heart diseases and strokes. And after Fukushima, in just a 1-month period, there was a story popped up. I'll find it for you. It's a little... It'll take me an extra 15 seconds. Maybe I'll have it. So I put it in 3 places. That way I can probably remember where at least one of them were too. Oh, lucky Dana got it. So, extreme increase in mortality caused by cardiac diseases. What does this say? Low, not just cancer, but how low doses of radiation causes heart diseases and strokes. That was June the 7th, 2011. By 2012, in July, extreme increase of mortality caused by cardiac diseases. And that the numbers might give the creeps, the death rate might give the creeps to some people. So there was an extra 12.5% of people dying from heart attacks. And then the cancer rose dramatically. And the number of cardiac disease itself rose dramatically. That was just in a single month. Probably had nothing to do with that they never stopped growing food in a nuclear wasteland and poisoning everybody with it. Oh, wait now, maybe that is what happened. Disinformation by nuclear proponents try to confuse the public about the effects of external and internal radiation. Disinformation, like Arnie Gunnarsson and Helen Cott had played for you earlier. Charles' risk of cancer, and I recovered that one earlier, is thousands of times higher. And that the Wall Street Journal had reported that officials sharply raised radiation levels for residents to get iodine pills after the meltdowns. And they raised it 75 times higher than the scumbag World Health Organization recommends for children. So think about that disconnect where so what they're doing is they are attacking the children. That is clearly them attacking the children. Degenerate Arnie Gunnarsson, piece of shit who didn't need to be in this story. This story came from everywhere but Arnie Gunnarsson. Nuclear Regulatory Commission wants radiation exposure limits 100 times higher than the Environmental Protection Agency. So you got the NRC in the United States wanting to raise it 100 times higher than the EPA, and you got in Japan, you got it 75 times higher than the World Health Organization. Gunnarsson is a piece of shit.
The Unit 4 was damaged twice. It was damaged by all of the earthquakes that occurred, and it was also damaged by a series of explosions over the first week or two of the accident. So the building is structurally weakened. Now Tokyo Electric's acknowledged that. They went in May and June of last year.
So, like, when he says they went in to the fuel pools, they're 150 feet above the stump.
Of last year. This is more than a year ago. And put an enormous number of extra structural supports directly under the fuel pool to keep the bottom of the pool from breaking through.
So how do you go in and put supports, enormous amounts of supports, under a fuel pool that doesn't exist? What a disgusting human he turned out to be. The Swiss embassy evacuation, so you had the French, the Swiss, the Canadians, many other countries, of course, evacuated because the radiation numbers were extraordinary. Tokyo, fearing the radiation. Korea, South Korea, that a particular administration called Japan's handling of Fukushima incompetent. Well, there was nothing you can do. You lost power, everything melted down. And what they're talking about the handling was they covered it up. Nuclear report warns of an apocalyptic scenario at Fukushima in the weeks ahead. This could one day be considered the start of the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet. Well, this was definitely the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet. The radiation covered the entire planet in about 25, 26 days. Japan Times column, as the public, possibly worldwide, sickens over time, the truth will come out about Fukushima. A Nobel Peace Prize winner on NHK, which is the government mouthpiece in Japan media, the only way to preserve human life is to completely turn away from nuclear power. A columnist, Kay McDuffie, from Ontario, Canada. The truth must be told, Fukushima is a major global threat to all living flora and fauna. And the mainstream media is not a source for information. 70% of the children tested are contaminated with radioactive cesium. All of them from outside the Fukushima prefecture. And that was South Korean news, Iranian news. 6 in 10 children with diabetes. In just one city, they put over 3,000 of these fake Geiger counters. And we know they're fake because the communities have millions of one-ton bags of radiation. And that the criteria for the one-ton bags of radiation, which is 1,000 kilograms, is each kilogram has to be around 100,000 atoms per kilogram. And so just a kilogram would dwarf that number you're looking at. And why are you measuring it in microsievers, which is the measurement they're using there, rather than physical atoms? So physical atoms is 11 becquerels a kilogram. The becquerel is the atomic decay per second. And so the atom will pulse energy every second at the speed of light. Well, just shy of the speed of light. And this will destroy your chromosomes, your DNAs, your cells, and also cause permanent lesions to your organs. Pretty quickly on top of that. Because the radiation is sequestering in your body. It's not like an X-ray where you turn it on, turn it off. It's in your body, so it pulses every second. If it's gamma, it'll pulse right through your body. It'll pulse right through your house and radiate to people in your next house. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms per kilogram of cesium-137. And you notice this trend where they constantly mention cesium-137. But you have endless amounts of other isotopes. The biggest byproduct is the curium isotopes, and it needs lead shielding 20 times thicker than, or 10 times thicker than plutonium, for instance. Options for management of Chernobyl area, restricted areas in England and Wales. This is a study from 2000. Chernobyl happened in 1986, right? So in 2000, there were still restricted areas from radioactive fallout from Chernobyl, which is just a fraction of a percent of Fukushima. And Chernobyl was brutal. If you look at the studies, and we have them on our sites, we also have them up at the nuclear proctologist. There's, I think I posted 1,500 studies in one story at the nuclear proctologist. And what you can do with that is just, as you flick through all these studies, because they're like in a picture photo thing, and so you just click and you're sliding through. Why don't I bring that up? Hang on, I'll see if I can bring it up. I'm pretty good at that stuff. Just give me a second, see if I can bring that up. Okay, maybe I'm not that good tonight. Just bear with me. Still got a few tricks up my sleeve. Where the hell would I put that to, I wonder? Because I can't type in that one, right? Just hang on one more second. I'll get it this time. I'll get it this time. I thought I had that link right there on this particular browser, but I don't apparently. Here we go. We'll have it for you in a second now. Voila, we're there. I'll bring that up on the screen actually. Bear with me. So if you come over to the nuclearproctologist.org, you'd have to go down quite a ways to find Chernobyl. Oh. Just bear with me, I'll get it. That wasn't supposed to happen. What have I got done there? I wonder. I don't know. I'm having a few problems with this browser. I don't want to screw it up. Just let me see if I can get it. Because it's worth looking at. But when you get to the news section, you got to scroll down quite a ways because there's a lot of stories, right? And just search the nuclearproctologist.org and then put in Chernobyl. But I can't type into my external laptop. And I got to fix that. I should apologize for that. I think they might have freaked with my website. Okay, I'm almost there. Bear with me. You can call in at the Two-Headed Dana Show. 709-589-4406. Just bear with me, because this is really important. And you won't regret it when I finally get to it. My goodness, I put out a lot of stories, don't I? I screwed it up. Okay, let's keep going because I can't. Hi, Brody. Just let me go back up to the comments, make sure I acknowledged everybody. I think I did. Yeah, I think we got everybody. Let's check the poll again while we're here. Is the Japanese Fukushima perpetual radioactive fallout the cause of a worldwide extinction level event? Yeah, actually, Dana, yes. Over 1 million Japanese still live in areas with high daily radiation exposures, and that the previous limit for rice was 0.1 atoms per kilogram, and now it's 1,000 times higher, but it's much higher again now, obviously. Former Fukushima Daiichi worker, I believe the country will be evacuated if number 4 fuel pool collapsed. Should have been hundreds of thousands of people working furiously every day. But reactor 4 did collapse, and that was right away. High radiation levels near Tokyo linked to Fukushima, of course. You know, when you got 29 million atoms per square meter after rainfall, these are absurd numbers, by the way. And they're only looking for gamma. They're not looking for alphas, betas, neutrons. Rain caused 29 million atoms a becquerel a kilogram. So you should have evacuated Tokyo, 36 million people in metropolitan Tokyo. A very high concentrations of hot particles in the Pacific Northwest during April and May, including plutonium and americium. Unprecedented spike, 1,500 atoms of radioactive sulfur per cubic meter detected in the California air. And this is from the salt boiling dry, salt water boiling dry, and the salt itself turns into like a spherical balls where they're able to ingest uranium, plutonium, curium, americium, plutonium, and become super hot particles. And so this is catastrophic. And they knew this in the 50s from the open ocean genocide / nuclear tests. So nuclear tests are an actual nuclear war. It's the same weapon and the same radioactive fallout. And so the Soviet Union's biggest nuclear weapon, one of many, was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki, because it's a plutonium bomb, was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki weapons going off at the one time, which were, I think, around 15 kilotons, right? That's a nuclear war. So if two countries exchange 1,800 Nagasaki-sized bombs in the middle of nowhere at the same island, is that still a nuclear war? Of course it is. Is the radioactive fallout the same? Yes, of course it is. Is the damage to human and species the same? Yes, of course it is. And will these plumes cover the entire planet within a short couple of weeks? Yes, of course it does. And so nuclear testing was a nuclear war. You just attacked yourselves with radiation. And it's heartbreaking how the nuclear industry was so disconnected. Eventually they had some pains of conscience, and they moved their nuclear weapons out into the tropical paradises and destroyed them. Like the Bikini Atoll, the Marshall Islands. The Christmas Island, what the British hideously, horrific harm to the victims on those islands. There was also the French, what the French done to the French Polynesians, for instance. The only way you can describe any of it is criminal. And the British also took nuclear weapons, of course, to Australia, where they destroyed Maralinga and Montebello, among many other places, they detonated over 700 dirty bombs in the desert, which are still unusable today. And that Montebello or Maralinga, I can't remember the islands, there's some beautiful tropical atolls. And all of these were just paradises. The epitome of a paradise. Perfect weather all year long. Stunning beauty. Unimaginable diversity. It's unimaginable. And the nuclear industry had to go and destroy it forever. And currently, let me bring this up for you. There was a study in 2019 of the Marshall Islands. And think about what kind of lowlife they were to name it the Bikini Islands, Bikini Atolls. Think about the disconnect of doing that. And because I gather up so much information, sometimes it takes an extra few seconds for me to find it. Because I'm at this so much, I got a wonderful memory, which gives me nightmares constantly, but I have a wonderful memory for this information. Measurements of cesium-137 contamination in the fruits from the northern Marshall Islands. This study was July 15, 2019. The radiation fallout from the testing program /war contaminated over a million square kilometers. So when you contaminate over 1 million square kilometers, is that testing or is that a nuclear war? If you don't think it's a nuclear war, you can call in and give us your reasoning at 709-589-4406. The lines are open to the pro-nuclear also, not just the anti-nuclear. Extending 1 million square kilometers. So when you contaminated 1 million square kilometers, how could you not contaminate 1 million square kilometers on land when you do it? How does that work? Because you contaminate the entire planet, Dana. Oh, that's right. What does that look like, Dana? Oh, well, I might be able to... So this is 20 days of radioactive fallout, slowly covering the entire planet. And then the French models really does tell the story of, that's the radiation. It's like an invisible snowstorm. And this is based upon 16 days, I believe. So at 16 days, you're covering most of the planet in perpetual radioactive fallout. This model is based on cesium-137 at 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. So this is going to be catastrophic to everything with replicating cells. Not maybe, not almost, not a little bit, but catastrophic. Because you're now permanently infested and infected with a biological weapon known as nuclear fallout. Fukushima releases were so great that the radioactive aerosols in Washington were up to 100,000 times normal. These are catastrophic numbers we're talking about. So another follow-up study, let's make sure that. This was September the 10th, 2011. And this was June the 7th, 2012. So a separate study. Let me put it on the big screen, actually. So this was physics.org, came out with this story at 100,000 times. So these are catastrophic numbers, by the way. And this was from the University of Texas, which there's a lot of pro-nuclear there, so it's pretty incredible. And this was the Xenon-133, which is that model right there, I do believe, is the Xenon-133. There's also another study of the Xenon-133, which is this model right here. Yeah, this one. This is actually, this one is a Norwegian Institute for Air Research. And this study is showing catastrophic numbers. And let me go back for 1 second. What's the date on this? So that's April the 4th. So there's many different models. They all suggest the same thing. The entire planet is covered in radiation in a very tiny fraction of time. New York Times authorities hid the radioactive plume forecast to avoid evacuation. Well, we should have evacuated North America, right? That would have been the moral and ethical thing to do. Authorities hid the radioactive plume forecast to avoid you being able to protect yourself. And the radioactive plume looked like these guys and this guy and that guy. This to me is the most realistic because, let me start it off again. So think of radiation as a snowstorm. It starts in Japan. The snowstorm starts to spread out. After 16 days or so, say 25 days, let's say 30 days. After 30 days, it covers the entire planet. So the snow never melts, the snow never goes away, and it never stops snowing for millions of years. But let's call it radioactive fallout, where you can't see it or smell it or hear it or taste it or feel it or touch it or pick it up or throw rocks at it or perceive it. And it assimilates into everything, every species, every flower, all the plants. It's unbelievably effective at assimilating into your body through water. And it's incredibly easy to liberate it from water back into the environment through evaporation. So in other words, every day on the ocean picks up tens of millions, tens of thousands of miles of rain clouds are created over the ocean through evaporation. And those clouds will come in, they're very heavy clouds and they're full of radiation. They'll hit your mountains, for instance. And then they need to lose a lot of their payloads to rise up and get over the mountain and go to the interior of your continents. And so a lot of that will destroy the ability of the glaciers to for the ice to crystallize. But also now all that glacier water is contaminated. It runs down through all the streams, the estuaries, the rivers, the lakes, which is an amazing ecosystem, by the way. And it's dependent upon the glacier water to regulate the temperatures. And during droughts, it's dependent upon that glacier water to keep the level of the river up high enough so migratory fish can return. And that whole ecosystem has been around for thousands of millenniums. A millennium being 1,000 years. So instead of a snowstorm, you have an invisible snowstorm that pulses energy almost at the speed of light every second. That's called global warming, and we have 80 years of it. And then Fukushima was a pulse event. So Fukushima was a catastrophic event. So 40 million atoms. Think of a Becquerel as an atom that's pulsing energy. So 40 million atoms of iodine-131 in a single bed of kelp off Southern California. And the amount was most likely larger. And they estimated the rainouts that we talked about earlier, up to 220 million atoms per liter, was actually 10 times higher. These are numbers we've never heard tell of before, by the way. March, particularly what I'm talking about is pre-Fukushima. Post-Fukushima, these are the numbers, the normal numbers. So March the 30th, this is simply March the 30th, 2012. And this study was done Environmental Science Technology, California State University. From the damaged Japanese reactors, California coastline, the 131 from damaged Japanese reactors. So the canopy forming kelp as California coastal dosimeters. The 131 iodine was from the damaged Japanese reactors. So here's an academic study from California State University, not suggesting it happened, but documentedly happened. So there's 10 times more 132 iodines for every 131 iodine created. There's 30 times more iodine-133 for every iodine-131 created. There's 31 iodine-129 for every iodine-131 created. That would have been in exact samples, and it wouldn't have been stopping at iodines. The 132 iodine and 133 iodines are 10 times more effective at ionizing and radiating thyroid glands of the birds and the animals and the insects and the humans than the incredibly efficient 131 is. It's an unbelievably powerful isotope. And the damage from the iodines never go away. The effects, I should say, never go away. Despite the fact they have a short half-life, the effects are forever to anything that they infest. And as you can see, and the reason these numbers are so big on the coastlines is because a lot of the rain out washes down to your coastlines. And so the radiation is not getting hung up in your schoolyards, your communities, on your vehicles, in your houses, in your children's toys in the gardens. And the pollinators are all irradiated and eradicated quite quickly because they're bringing back radioactive pollen, because radiation is sucked up by the plants, and the pollen that now is radioactive. We know that from studies from Chernobyl and from studies from Fukushima, from Japan Prefecture. Former Japan official, unstoppable contamination of the Pacific Ocean is menacing the U.S. West Coast. And that Fukushima is now undeniably a global security issue because you have compromised your fresh water worldwide and your food worldwide for all species, not just humans. And so some people might think I overemphasize that because it's pretty rare for me to not include both humans and species. But I'd be remiss for not doing that, wouldn't I? Fukushima, now undeniably a global security issue, can't be brought under control by a single state, and particularly one with such evil intentions. Japan is a hate crime itself. It hates you, it hates the insects, it hates the birds, and it's an evil, extremely evil country. The nuclear industry in particular has compromised the integrity of all species and humanity. And these are, the best way to describe it, and I showed you those pictures at the beginning from the research expeditions, is an extinction event. There's no other way to describe it. And hence the reason we have a poll asking that very question: is Fukushima perpetual radioactive fall at the cause of a worldwide extinction level event? And we have an overwhelming response that yes, Dana, unfortunately, it appears so. Radiation forecast withheld by the government, releasing it would cause unnecessary panic. And so the ministry decided such data would be unavailable due to the loss of power. Think about that incredible statement. So, see, I'm the mayor of a community, and there's 10,000 people in the community. And so a scientist comes up to me and says to me, we've had a catastrophic event at the power plant where we accidentally received a large container of radiation, and that was put into the water tables. Now, the option we have is to warn people, and we can give them certain things to help chelate that out of their bodies. We can't get it all out, but we can now start coming up with new filtration systems. We're going to have to move everybody out of the community also. And because the water pipes are now permanently radiated. Because this is how that actually works, see? And the mayor would say, absolutely not, I'm going to lose power. I got a pension tied up here. I got all kinds of free credit cards. I get free meals everywhere I go. I'm the mayor. We can't tell them that. And the scientist said, well, you got to tell them. So you say, well, you're fired. And you signed a non-disclosure agreement when you joined the government, so you better keep your pie hole shut. That's what's going on. So we're defeated at every stage of the so-called protective system. Now, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is appointed each year by the administration. And the president himself typically is the one who appoints the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Why would the president appoint that particular committee for? Because he doesn't get the job unless he's going to play ball, right? Japan TV anchor couldn't tell the truth about Fukushima. This is a journalist. I couldn't tell the truth about Fukushima. This is the anchor, the TV anchor, the main mouthpiece. shocking revelation kept secret from the public. And that nuclear scientists, I have not trusted the information from the beginning. The worst scenario I predicted has happened. And that's one of the few statements from a nuclear scientist that acknowledge that when they seen the detonations, the explosions, and the first pictures, significant pictures by March the 16th, I'm just trying to find them right for you. It was impossible for any nuclear academic to look at the pictures, the original pictures, and I'm going to show it to you. Even if I got, I'm still busted up from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I haven't stopped since the last show. I've been pummeled by heavy snow, 80 centimeters, blizzards. And between shoveling, scraping with the box scraper, which is amazing, just thank goodness, and the plow on the quad, because I can't really shovel much, so I have this electric snow shovel. It's very small, right? Very light, but I'm not used to doing that technique because you got to hang on with both hands. But it's still fantastic. I recommend it to everybody, a snow shovel. It'll clean your steps, for instance, right off with one sweep. You ever try to clean your steps in heavy snow? It's a lot of work, right? Each step is a lot of work. And I cleared out in front of the shed because the shed was piled up about 6 feet high. And I had to clean that out with the shovel to get into it. Just on a little pad and open up enough to get the door open so I can get in and get the electric snow shovel. Then I used that to dig a path to the other shed where the quad is to, and I had to dig that out with the electric shovel so I can get the plow out. But the snow was so deep you couldn't go through it with the plow. So I had to thin out the snow before I can use the plow just to get started. That was Friday. And then I had to keep going, doing that over and over and over so it didn't gather up. Just down the road at some places was over 5 feet high on the road. It was impossible. And so I am hurting. And I reignited a hernia that I have also, but it's hanging on. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to get, but I can't seem to do much. But I can get here every night and inform the population, no matter how much misery I'm into. So this was the original footage. And every nuclear scientist on the planet that's seen these pictures knew the reactor cores and the fuel pools. And there's 8 fuel pools total. There's 2 fuel pools at the top of each building. They're 100% lost into the biosphere and the atmosphere and the ecosystem. And that is something no one on the planet has ever made contingency plans for. The government hid the radiation simulation because it was very, very bad and showed a serious contamination over a wide area. So the Japanese government have a system known as the SPEEDY. It spells the same as it sounds. And they produced over 5,500 models of radioactive fallout based on documentation that they were gathering up in the Japanese government. They didn't release it to the public that paid for it, but they did release it to the American government, and we discovered that in the FRIA, Freedom of Information Act releases. And there's over 4.3 million emails released, of government emails, in Freedom of Information. And they're available. You'll find them under most links today. I won't find them under today's videos because there wasn't really a lot of room. But yesterday, or any video in the last month, for instance, you go underneath it, you'll find multiple links to the nuclear regulatory site itself, and then to the PDF files of the 4.3 million emails. So why did they have 4.3 million emails just with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the United States, if it wasn't really bad? Because that's an absurd amount. And there's a lot of them that didn't get released. So how many did they really produce? So there was incredible cover-up going on. Government hid the radiation simulation in Japan, so it's serious contamination. Calgary Sun, which is in Canada, said no need to panic, probably, about the Fukushima fallout that rained on Canada. The government hadn't even released the data. This was January 22nd, 2012. Around July the 13th, 2011, the Canadian government removed all restrictions on the food from the nuclear wasteland in Japan. But 55 other countries banned it for a decade. So Japan really couldn't ship much food anywhere, but they did. Most of it went to Canada. So the most highly radioactive food was shipped to Canada. And this is cancer on a plate. You eat it and eventually illnesses and diseases and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries will manifest, including cancer. And that's such a betrayal, it's hard to comprehend that the Canadian could be that evil. And we covered it relentlessly. Not tonight, unfortunately. Top United States official, the reality is no technology exists anywhere to solve the problem of Fukushima melted fuel. And that the molten mass will scorch the earth if not cooled. A China syndrome. Now, what's important about this story, there's quite a bit important about this story. I got to put this there so I can find my way back to this. Test 97. So I'm going to walk backwards. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to play a clip that I played multiple times today already. But first, look how savage they done me today. I had my first show was on Fukushima tanks today. I'd done 3 shows, right? When the show was over, 33 minutes later, I had one view. One view. So normally if you get 100 people or 50 people, 60 or 70% of it will show up in your views, right? Because they're on a live show. So I had 21 likes, but I only had one view. For my next show, and I had 37 people, he said, on that show. For my second show was 33 minutes, 46 seconds. Now, that was 6 minutes later. I had 4 views. So if I had went there, I basically would have had no views. And I had 50 people on that one. So my last show that I done had no views after 33 minutes. I must admit I'm pretty consistent. Each of my shows are 33 minutes. I had 17 likes, but I had no views. That's called vicious censorship, right? And now they're saying I had 32 people on the show. So in other words, nobody's seen my video except for people that regularly comes here. They were allowed to see that my show was going live, but nobody else did. And how many random people do you see in the comment sections? It's almost never, right? Once every couple of months or something? Every 2 or 3 months? Never nobody new, though. Basically the same people. Bless your hearts, by the way. And your integrity. Okay, let's come back here. There's no technology. So workers say the ground under Fukushima plant is cracking and that the radioactive steam is coming up. And that the steam was quoted at lethal doses is 3 sieverts per hour. Now the video shows the site covered in radioactive plumes. Now this is 40 times their speed, which was 8 times or something the normal speed. So they abandoned the site multiple times because the steam coming out of the ground was so intensive. It was, now the Geiger counters max out at 10 sieverts per hour. So it was detected at 10 sieverts per hour at 6 places on the site. So anybody that was there, that's a lethal dose. They would have died for sure. Not later, but that day, that night, within hours or minutes, they're going to die from being in that. This is nighttime too, so it's very difficult to perceive it at nighttime, right? United States was hit with an extremely large peak of Fukushima radioactive material pulse, and a significant amount of plutonium was released for months. And the plutonium radioactivity was measured globally and blanketed the entire northern hemisphere. Blanketed the entire northern hemisphere. blanketed. Significant amount of plutonium blanketed the entire northern hemisphere for months, where it didn't settle down, it didn't get washed out, it was perpetually coming out, see? And so the best way to describe it is a continuous plume. Once the plume starts and first encircles the entire planet, which at max would be, say, 40 days, then it never goes away and it never stops coming out. And when you see the French's model, let me see if I can find that again. Sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find it. Here we go. So I want you to visually think about this for a second. Think about the plume, see the plume coming out, see ground zero? So ground zero is still coming out. It never stops coming out, but then it's so thick you don't notice it that it's still coming out. And that just because the model stops at 16 days, on the 25th, or I believe that says the 26th, so 15 days, it's still hemorrhaging out. So the hemorrhaging, despite the fact that the planet is now a continuous plume, it's a continuous plume. It's not like a plume that's spread out. It's a continuous plume. And so we can't change what we can't change, but we can hold the monsters accountable. And there's a lot more of us than it is of them. And they recognize that. They're now well on the path to exterminating us and all the species. And that kind of contempt should not go unchallenged. Like James Lewis had stated earlier when he called in, right? These crazies actually think they can demoralize me. They actually think that they can do that to me and get me to go away. But it doesn't. My personality, it doesn't work that way. And now that I understand so deeply the horror, the absolute horror of this scenario, I will never go away. I will never go away. I will never give up. I will never stop seeking. And they can kill me all they want, but I've produced enough material that I will never go away. They can never get rid of me. I'll never go away, see? Because my other site that took down had over 1,600 presentations on it. All my research expeditions wiped out with no emails, no strikes on my account. We were looking for spiders, well, me. And I was nowhere near healthy. I'm still nowhere near healthy. But I got 7 stents put in, so I'm going to last a little while longer, that's for sure. Thanks to a bizarre scenario where a group of doctors and nurses flew in to do the surgery. Nobody else was allowed to do the surgery on me. The local doctors is what I'm talking about. They told me they couldn't do the surgery on me when I went in to do the... because I had 3 heart attacks last year in February. An historical crisis along the U.S. West Coast. We're facing a fishery disaster. So this team flew in, done the surgery, put 7 stents in, which is the most the province has ever done. And then they flew back out of here again. They were here just to do me. And where I was getting the stents put in, that's what they do in that operating theater in the city. They do that all day, every day. That's the only thing they do in that theater. People come from all over the province to get stents put in. But they weren't allowed to operate on me, according to the doctors there. What's interesting is all the nurses came over and poked their head in and gave me a smile. It was really interesting. And even the nurse that was taking care of me till the team showed up, when I said I'm absolutely positively not with the government, she said, well, you wouldn't be allowed to tell us if you were anyway. It's like, well, I'm not. I'm just a man. I'm a nobody. Very never seen before. We're facing a fishery disaster. This is 2016. Now, I was on the ocean doing the research expeditions. I showed you those pictures at the beginning. And if you're not familiar with that, that's worth going back and revisiting after. We're facing a fishery disaster, historical crisis, now extended to all the oceans. And an extinction threat, a loss of sardines, to squid, the sea urchins, the kelp. And these reports were based upon my research. Radioactive iodine 131 in the Pennsylvania rainwater sample is 3,300% above the federal drinking water standards. But if the standards are only based on a single isotope, you are in real trouble. Forecast from Fukushima forecast showed cesium-137 and iodine-131 over northwestern United States on the May the 5th. A new type of Fukushima forecast shows radioactive cesium and iodine over large sections of the United States and Canada. This model is based on 40 days from NOAA. And it's based upon the radioactive fallout. I'm going to double the speed of it. And this is only based on 2 isotopes. It's based on 40 days. And it clearly shows the planet. Now, it's based on venting. It's not based on nuclear meltdowns. The fuel pools, the loss of the reactors, the inventories. It's very disturbing. So all the models produced by all the major governments worldwide are consistent. And with about 30 to 40 days, the entire planet is buried, blanketed in radioactive vicious. And I showed you a study earlier where it was plutonium blanketed the entire northern hemisphere. And 40 million atoms right on a beach in California blamed on Fukushima. That was in that study that I showed you. So how can all these studies be wrong? Is iodine-131 killing babies in Philadelphia? The deaths are up 48% since radiation levels spiked in tap water. And that study is 2011, June the 16th. So March, April, May, June. Cause and effect, see? Radioactive iodine-131 levels up in Pennsylvania rainwater, exceeding the maximum contaminated levels permitted in drinking water, which meant you're supposed to evacuate Pennsylvania, which meant you can never drink the water again, which means you have been severely impacted by Fukushima. So you should sue the Fukushima government. You should take this stuff and then sue the government. This is your evidence. This is unassailable documentation. Human embryos in the United States are likely bioaccumulating radioactive iodines, cesium, strontiums. Fukushima fallout in New Hampshire, radioactive iodine at 12,000 atoms per square meter. 12, and that, because when, like, you can find the iodine is a very heavy gamma emitter. But, your typical inspector, for instance, is not going to pick that up. It's going to pick up some of it, but you're going to need a spectrometer, you're going to need it isolated, you're going to need to calibrate it for the specific isotopes. Then you got to line it with bricks, and then you got to leave it there for a very long time to quantify it. So when you see these types of numbers, these are professional numbers. These are unassailable numbers. But when you start putting everything together that I'm bringing to you, then how can you live in denial, see? Former Department of Energy officials, I'm not talking about the hardcore that's here all the time, obviously. I'm just talking to the broader audiences on the anniversary, the 13th sad anniversary of the betrayal of humanity and the 8 million species. Former Department of Energy official criticizes UC Berkeley professor for comparing ingestions of radioactive iodine to air travel, and this is Kyle Vetter, by the way. Now, when he done the kelp study, he came out with the results before he even got kelp out of the water, and then was criticized in many different places, which today is unheard of, right? But back in 2011, back in 2012, there was quite a lot of dissenting voices, but nobody tried to warn us that the fuel pools were gone, which I find atrocious. And Arnie Gunnarsson made the assemblies, racks for the assemblies for the fuel pools, and he didn't try to warn us. And I think that they should pay life in jail minimum, and if not, get the death penalty in a criminal court trial for these betrayals. These are the most egregious betrayals conceivable, because you are poisoning the population, and you have led them astray, and they have no ability now to defend themselves from the harsh reality and the effects of the radiation. It's unconscionable. And it's not tenable either. Arkansas's milk is 300% above the EPA's maximum containment levels for radioactive iodine-131. And so what you should always do is say, well, and which means there's going to be a big percentage is going to be uranium, a bigger percentage is going to be plutonium. The biggest percentage is going to be the curium isotopes. And we see that omitted from all of these acknowledgments of radioactive fallout, where they only acknowledge the iodine-131. And so what typically happens for the academic communities is they have a mathematical equations extrapolate the other radioactive isotopes, the ratios, and it's terrifying. Nuclear policy expert, it's striking that the radioactive iodine-131 in California rainwater is so far above the levels permitted in drinking water. So far above the levels permitted in drinking water, which means California should have been abandoned. And because the average person will look up iodine-131 and see it only survives for about 80 days, if it was just a single dispersal. But this is a continuous plume that never stopped coming out on top of it. And because there's criticalities ongoing, then it's constantly being emitted. And that the numbers of iodine are stunning, by the way. There's no doubt about it. But curium isotopes is the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel rods. And curium isotopes need lead shielding 10 times thicker than you do for the plutonium. And as we've seen studies earlier asserting that the entire northern hemisphere was blanketed in plutonium fallout. But when you have all these different isotopes I showed you tonight, when you put that all into the equation, you're starting to get a handle on the reality. If you listen to their narratives where they only acknowledge one, they acknowledge maybe two. It's typically iodine-131. That's meant to mislead you into thinking that it's all gone after 3 months. It's so dishonest, the industry doesn't have a right to exist anymore. It doesn't have a right to exist on our planet, period. And everybody in the industry needs to be removed from their positions of authority and to replace it with people. And anybody can get up to speed when it comes to this particular topic. Anybody can get up to speed, so you don't need special training to quantify the job. Anybody can pick up this knowledge in a short period of time and then treat it appropriately. But the problem is the industry will only hire people that are sadistic monsters. New York Times contributor confirms California rainwater 181 times above the drinking water standards. This means it's going to be saturated with the full range of radioactive isotopes. These are horrific, unconscionable numbers we're talking about. Department of Homeland Security, which is pretty devious, up to 430 picocuries per liter radioactive iodine in North California rain after Fukushima. And so this is simply a fraction of the real numbers that were, because we know it was 40 million atoms in a single bed of kelp. A medical journal article, 14,000 U.S. deaths after Fukushima fallout. And the author of that study died last year, I believe. And really, she done a lot of great work. She updated that to 20,000 about a month later, by the way, with her partner in that study was Monroe, I think. Don't quote me. How did the radioactive glass rain down on Tokyo? Fukushima nuclear fuel with 500 million or 500 billion atoms per kilogram found. Significant consequences of human health. Scientists, this changes the understanding of the disaster. It's extremely important, and our idea of health implications should change. And do not discuss on social medias. 500 trillion atoms. These are life-changing numbers we're talking about in a community of 36 million people. So that kind of number, by the way, can't just be, it has to be everything from Tokyo to Fukushima, 240 kilometers away. So everything in between would have had the bigger numbers because the numbers got smaller the further you go. Hopefully. Officials admit a deadly Fukushima meltdown cover-up. TEPCO president, we lied about the meltdowns, and lying about the genocide and omnicide should be met with consequences, shouldn't it? Over 60 million Japanese irradiated by Fukushima. The nuclear experts, 50,000 square miles of Japan is highly contaminated. Highly contaminated. Many millions, 36 million in Tokyo, metropolitan Tokyo should be evacuated. Government has decided to sacrifice them. More than 70% of the country is contaminated. So if you're eating food from Japan, you need to stop. You need to get rid of it. You don't give it to a loved one or friends or even people you hate. This is genocide. Japan has no right to destroy humanity and the 8 million species. And the nuclear industry is behind all of it. The International Atomic Energy Agency is the coordinator of all of it. Radiation precautions for the areas near Seattle, Vancouver, Portland. Perhaps you need to wash your shoes and other things. Well, washing your shoes is not going to get rid of the radiation. You got to throw it away. You can't bring it in your house. And any clothing that you're wearing, you don't want to bring that into your house and put it in your laundry. You contaminate your laundries. And the first thing you want to do is go to the barber or buy a shear and skin your head right away, because your hair is going to be incredibly saturated. And as soon as you take a shower, the shower now is going to be contaminated. Your loved ones are going to be affected. Highly radioactive sewage 30 plus miles from Fukushima. Cesium levels up to 334,000 atoms per kilogram. So when you're excreting this much per kilogram, these are catastrophic consequences. Sharp rises in iodine-131 levels at 3 Tokyo sewage plants. High levels of radioactive material at 170,000 atoms per kilogram in the sewage, the slag left over from the dehydration of the sewage, approaching levels found in Fukushima. What was interesting about Tokyo, there was a bunch of things that we have the evidence to support, was that the sewage plants normally will take the sewage and it'll be put into large bags, 1-ton bags, and then eventually it's used as fertilizer, believe it or not. Another thing was, and they can't because it's so radioactive, thank goodness, and horrifyingly, the garbage is so radioactive it shouldn't be burnt, and that the ashes left over are so radioactive they can't get rid of. The water filtration systems produce sediment. And that sediment is also used as for a fertilizer, as topsoil per se, from the water filtration facilities. And we know a bunch of them in the first few months had produced over 50,000 1-ton bags of sediment from large cities' water filtration systems that they couldn't get rid of because it was so radioactive. They wanted TEPCO to take control of it. So if you put a 1-ton bag in the back of a 1-ton pickup truck, how long is it going to take you to bring all of that to Tokyo? So it's an enormous amount we're talking about. And that we're seeing this particular rise of radiation levels. So when they acknowledge iodine-131, you have to also acknowledge all the uranium, plutonium, americium, neptuniums, the strontiums, the curium isotopes, and many, many more are going to be in the same samples. It's not just going to be the iodine-131, but that's the one you can find. 350 kilometers from Fukushima sewage plants that are transforming into other radioactive substances, because they'll decay from one isotope to another isotope to another isotope, to truly a barbaric industry, right? Truly an evil industry. Because one isotope might not be so bad. When it decays, it's nasty. It's lethal. It's very sneaky, isn't it? And it's probably one of the strangest headlines you're ever going to hear. Incinerating radioactive material could contaminate the environment. Well, not could contaminate the environment. It will contaminate. You liberate, because you can't destroy the radiation by incinerating it, so you're just going to liberate it back into the environment. And then the press watches as the government dumps the radioactive waste into Tokyo Bay. This is true symmetrically across Japan, not just on the west coast of Japan, or the east coast, but also on the west coast towards North Korea, South Korea, Russia, etc. Nearly 5,000 nuclear plant workers suffered internal radiation exposures after visiting Fukushima. So how can you get radiation exposure? I thought they had paper suits on, Dana. Well, that's a great question. The paper suits can't protect somebody. Gamma shines 600 feet. It'll shine right through your house. So what kind of deterrent is a paper suit? We had badgered that particular point extensively for about a week straight. Really we had lots of pictures. We were constantly using that for like a half an hour of each show. And boom, out came Japan Times, with an article saying Japan TEPCO burns 7,000 paper suits a day. Because we were asking, well, what are you doing with all the paper suits? There must be millions of one-ton bags of paper suits. And they couldn't, and they panicked and came out with a headline and a story saying they burned 7,000 paper suits a day at the incinerators at Fukushima. And they built 2 new incinerators there, big ones, at a nuclear meltdown site. By the way, all nuclear power plants have incinerators. And it's not just for innocuous and benign stuff, it's for radiation. This industry will exterminate everything and will continue to do what they're doing. They'll have robots continue to do it long after the humans are gone. Tokyo neighbor cesium, approaching levels found in Fukushima. Chiba, which is 20 kilometers from Tokyo, and one day will be part of Tokyo. Incinerator dust at 70,000 becquerels a kilogram. In Tokyo, one of their incinerators, there's many stories, but one story was 3 incinerator workers had heart attacks within an hour or so of each other because they were burning so much radioactive material. They went through the smoke plume and they had heart attacks from the high level radiation. Pre-Fukushima, 100 atoms per kilogram of cesium is nuclear waste. After Fukushima, it's safe to eat. Of course, 11 becquerels a kilogram, children will see significant damage to their hearts. At 50 atoms, 50 becquerels a kilogram, adults and children will be permanently impacted. For children, it'll be permanent holes in their hearts. And for adults, they'll have permanent lesions to their organs. These are permanent, which means your immune system now has to try to repair it constantly. And not only that, what that happens through that process is that compromises your immune system. So now you become more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign. Let's do a few more and we'll call it a night, I guess. Let's do 4 more and we'll go over and close the poll down. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes into the show. We've done 3 shows before that today. So this is the 4th show of the day. 100 becquerels a kilogram, and I hope people re-upload these videos. Today's videos are actually great little short videos. In the context of this subject, 30 minutes is short. So there is, by the way, just a single atom in your body attacks it for the rest of your life. So there is no safe level. Fukushima will start burning radioactive waste at 100,000 becquerels a kilogram to be incinerated. So these are dirty bombs by the kilogram, and 1 billion pounds of radioactive debris in the exclusion zone. But as we know, 14 prefectures, the food was banned by 55 countries. And on top of the insult to genocide and omnicide, 300 times more radiation released into the atmosphere from burning debris than claimed by the government. I got 2 more to get through. In fact, I think almost the entire city of 300,000 people has radiation levels high enough. And I think this is Koriyama. I showed you some of that earlier. Certainly one of the shows today about the bottles, water bottles being used to shield the children in high schools or the elementary schools. So the last story of the day was they found plutonium in every sample. And that we know that North America was blanketed in plutonium fallout, sustained for many weeks. And that's never going to go away for at least 240,000 years. I poke myself in the eye, and give me a second here, and then we'll come back and do the poll. And we'll call it a night. I'm severely burnt out. I haven't stopped. I'm literally burnt out. But when it comes to nuclear is so important that even burnt out, I'll still find the energy and the time and the effort to cover this topic, this hideous, monstrous topic. So let's close the poll down. We got 51 votes, and thank you everybody so much. Is Japan, the Japanese, we got Organic Slant calling in. Hi Mark, hang on. Hi Mark.
Hey, okay. Hey.
Hi there. You got the last call of the night, bless your heart. Good timing, man.
Yeah, I got a poem I would mind reading.
Yep, no, you go right ahead, Mark.
Just let me know when you want me to start.
Looks good. Go for it.
Okay, so this is a poem. I tried to get Cleveland Marco to call in because this is his poem. He's writing a book called Deep Down the Rabbit Home, poetry book. So here it is. It's about Fukushima will kill the ocean. In shadows deep, a tale untold, where truth and cover-up unfold. Fukushima's disaster vast, a nuclear storm where secrets hide. Tokyo Electric Power Company, they say, he gets the green light to dump away. But the Pacific Ocean weeps in pain as life within begins to wane. Gone are the merchants of the sea. The starfish, once vibrant, was no longer spotted by me. West Coast tide pools, lifeless and stark, bear witness to a world grown dark. Fish, mammals, and birds they fall, in death's embrace, their final call. Nuclear activists, their voices hushed, censored and silenced, truth crushed. For 13 long years, Fukushima bled, an endless meltdown fulfilling dark needs. 30 million bags, each 1 ton strong. Leaking nuclear waste is a deadly mob. Japan's throat, health and warp speed. The consequences are too significant to heed. Millions more gallons to be disposed of. Radioactive isotopes, the ocean exposed. The devil was unleashed from the ground, running wild, chaos all around. The Manhattan Project just a test, compared to Fukushima's toxic unrest. Chernobyl, 3 Mile, and bombs dropped, a mere grain, and the sandbox stopped. For Fukushima's ongoing plight, the Arctic Circle's leaking blight. In secrecy they dumped before, millions of gallons always. The collective apathy, its heavy weight, obsessed with trivial matters of fate. The youth entranced by fleeting trends, lost in TikTok as the world contends. Sickness, illness, cancer they deny. Leaders deflect and look the other way. Radiation seeps into water and food. Its presence felt like a poisonous brood. Nuclear power is claimed to be clean, yet leaks and failures remain unseen. 500 sites scattered worldwide. Each one is a potential threat to abide by. But who cares for this perilous plight, as indifference reigns out of sight, out of mind, out of light. In this dark chapter, no hope remains, no unity, no solace, only despair reigns. For Fukushima's story, a tragic end, a broken world we cannot mend. The oceans mourn their depths of grave. The earth weeps, a world it cannot save. There is no redemption, no chance to amend, as humanity faces its bitter end. A sorrowful dirge, a final refrain, as the curtain falls on the world in pain. No happy endings, no glimpse of light, just the haunting echoes of eternal night.
Awesome. Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
That's a great poem. So Cleveland Marks,
is.
there's Cleveland Marks. Who's been around for a
Cleveland
very,
Marco,
he's been around a long time. Same as yourself.
yeah,
Same as
he's-
yourself.
He's just
And-
like you, and I just want to say that you're the water that makes this grow. So just, we love you, and just keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing.
Love you too, man. Thank you. This is Organic Slant, folks, in case you're wondering. I call him Mark, of course, but you know him as Organic Slant. Okay, Mark, anything else you want to throw out to my friend?
No, I'm starting the gardening season again, and I'm finding mutations all around. So it is real. If it's happening to the plants and the animals, it's definitely happening to us. And I'm just trying. One day is unbelievably that Fukushima has turned my dream into turning into a theme park, a botanical garden outside of Cleveland somehow. That's going to be based on a nuclear meltdown that is destroying the plants, and it'll be the largest collection of unusual
Wow.
mutant plants. So just wish me luck, because that's
Good, yeah.
what I'm going for.
That's great. I think everybody should pick something and then get really good at it, and then we can't deny it any longer, right? Okay, my friend. Thank you.
And, one last thing, I love you, and one day I'm going to give you a hug.
Okay, man. Love you too, my friend. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Ciao.
Good stuff, my friend. Take care now. That's Organic Slant, as you know. And that's a great poem. We thank Cleveland Marks for that. And it's very difficult to read poems like this without breaking up. It's a very difficult thing to do. Okay, so we're going to close the poll down. Let's go back to that one more time. I just got to get on. I'll just leave it here, I guess. Go back to the poll. We got 52 votes. Thank you, everybody. Is the Japanese Fukushima perpetual radioactive fallout the cause of a worldwide extinction level event? And anybody who watched this show clearly understands what we're saying is true. We got 38 thumbs up. If you make it this far, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. I'm going to play some out music. Turn that down a little bit because I screwed up one of my videos today. I'll just raise it. I know this one song gets a little bit louder. Okay, everybody. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'll make it back to tomorrow. Because there's 4 shows today. And we done good tonight. We punched in over 2 hours. 2 hours and 17 minutes or something like that. Yeah, good night, everybody. Thank you, AAA. Yeah, visit my store. Yeah, that's a great poem, James. Thank you. Absolutely. Just make sure I do a quick shout out to anybody I might have missed earlier. PBS Lover, Brody Lover, I mentioned, Gabriel Treewolf, John Curtis, Nuke Zero. Just a quick shout out. And we're going to fade out. Have a great night, everybody. Hope I got everybody. If not, thank you for finding the time, the energy, the effort, the courage. An extra shout out for everybody that called in. Bubbly Blinders, Polly. That's it for Dana. Have a great night, everybody, if that's possible. We'll see everybody today. Hopefully tomorrow night we'll get in a show. Take care, everyone.